Hello, I'm Eugenio Rebaudengo. I'm an art lover, an art collector, and a founder of ARTUNER.com. ARTUNER is an online platform that I decided to found around 2.5 years ago, with the strong belief that the internet is becoming an increasingly important place for people to discover and collect art. My decision to start with ARTUNER happened in London, where now I'm living, and I moved there almost 5 years ago from Torino, my hometown, to study, to do my master in management at London School of Economics. And during the master, I tried to look at which were the new channels through which art can be experienced and appreciated. What has happened after the first year was the possibility to start collaborating also on a pop-up physical base with a range of international spaces, institutions, or sometimes commercial galleries, in order to develop also some physical shows alongside all the online presentations and contents that we do have. I think in general nowadays we are all very comfortable in acquiring works via digital images. Myself, I regularly buy just looking at a JPEG, and I know most of the collectors do the same. I think what is still the complication, and always would be, is to introduce totally new artists to the picture just with an online presence. So if an artist is already very established, or in any case you know previously the work, the digital is not anymore an issue in terms of a barrier. What may be a bit more challenging is to present totally new artists online. And since I really wanted to support the younger generation, my generation of artists, that's how organically ARTUNER is also started to mount physical shows where mostly younger artists have the opportunity to have in different cities pop-up exhibitions. For example, in the last year and a half, we have been showing, of course, in London, often, which is the base in the Italian Cultural Institute, but in Italy, in Torino, a couple of times in every November during the Artissima art fair period. In Berlin and Paris, we had some group shows in collaboration with Max Setzler Galleries. In Greece, for example, we organized a residency and a pop-up show in a small island called Siphonos in the middle of the Greek Sea during last summer. And we're going, for example, to start doing some shows in Chelsea on 24th Street from the autumn. So we do have a very, let's say, dynamic, active program where every time the space is different. So it can be a loft, can be a former space that has totally been redeveloped, can be a Baroque palace from 16th century, can be the courtyard outdoor in an island of Greece, or can be, you know, the white cube space in Chelsea. And the idea is also in those cases to have artists reacting. In a lot of other cases, I would say half of the shows instead are purely online, and we use the online platform to introduce and present artists, giving them generally some essays, so inviting people to write essays about their works, having them interviewed, and so having them in a way, giving them a possibility to present the work via the platform. And we like also to develop a lot of educational contents around the shows that we organize, in order that online visitors that maybe don't have yet a knowledge about the artists that we're introducing will know more, and even, let's say, more importantly, the collectors and friends that are already involved in what we're doing can every time discover interesting, exciting artists. I think one of the keys in the group show that we do is the idea of curating shows, yes, with young artists, but inviting also often more established artists, sometimes very established artists, to produce works or selecting their works in dialogue with the younger artists in order to give the younger artists an opportunity to, let's say, confront themselves with artists that already became successful, and for the older one maybe to have new, fresher keys of reading their work. I mean, to me, collecting is really, if you want, a generational lesson that I got from my parents, and so it's in a way it's a life journey where every day you have the opportunity to discover something new, to challenge yourself and to challenge the artists that are producing the works. What is fantastic about collecting contemporary art is that you very often have the opportunity to meet the artist, visit their studio, and discussing with them about the work. For me, this is one of the most rewarding components about collecting art, and the decision of developing ARTUNER was also a very, let's say, rational decision of saying, okay, I want to spend most of the time in the artworks, and I want to meet artists, I want to engage with artists of my generation, I want to spend time with them, and I want to be involved in their works. And so to me, collecting contemporary art has also that component. But I mean, if you don't do it as a full-time activity, I think what you should do is really trying to listen to advice of people that know, have knowledge about the artists and the artists, but also, you know, try to trust your personal taste and put together a collection with some internal coherency, which means just not looking for names necessarily, but being focused also in getting works of an artist which are representative of this practice, and they are not just a way to thick a list of hot names to get. I don't define myself as a gallerist, and I don't think that's the model we're interested in developing. I think that nowadays the art world is very much changing. I'm involved in the art world with very different hats. I'm, as you know, very involved in the family foundation, SANDRETTO Rebaudengo, where since 2008 I'm in the board, and I'm actively involved in the acquisition and creation, building up of the collection, and in the shows in Torino of the younger artists. I'm involved with different institutions, and I'm involved, let's say, with also collectors and friends in sometimes advising them in creating their own collection. I think in this world, so boundaries are become a bit less clear than what they were, and on the other end, it's very important to be transparent and clear in what you're doing. So depending on the role and the head that I have in the specific model, I interact with the art world and the different people in the art world in a very clear way, you know. So when I act as a collector, I act in a certain way. When I act with ARTUNER, we organize shows in a certain way. The definition of roles, you know, so it's quite fluid. What I think it's important is the vision that you have long term of which artist you really believe in and you want to support, and starting from that, so then you develop, let's say, a strategy using different tools in order to support and promote the artists you want to you want to work with and you believe in. I think nowadays every or most of the collectors are involved in different ways also with public institutions. All the American big museums have board of trustees with collectors that have their own private collections generally, and then they are also in the board of public museums in which they are involved in acquisition process, in selection of the shows, and so on. So I mean, and there are museum directors of public museums also that are, say, involved in different ways in organizing shows with private individuals. Sometimes they advise for their collections. So I mean, I think in the art world, most of the people is in a position where has more than one specific role. What I think is important is how ethically you act in the different ways, but at the end of the day, you know, everyone is, if you believe in an artist, you are very much interested in supporting his or her career in every possible way, and in find so as much as possible opportunities in order to promote and develop their works. So I think that's quite natural, and in a way, if it's done for the, let's say, in the interest of the artist, I think that's wonderful. I feel very lucky and privileged for the background in which I've been raised up, because first of all, I had the incredible opportunity since when I was 3 years old and my mom started collecting contemporary art to grow up in the art world, which means that you spend most of the time with artists, collectors, curators, galleries, dealers. So when you are raised in a family where you have a person like my mother incredibly passionate about art, all the life of the family in a way is around art. So when you go on holiday, you always visit artist studios and museums. And maybe when you are 10 years old or 12 years old, is not the most exciting thing to do, and you prefer to go playing football or watching a tennis match. But down the line, you find yourself with an incredible experience in terms of things that you have learned and assimilating over so many years without even realizing. And of course, also with a network of people that you have grown up with, and then maybe they were, you know, coming with you to the Christmas holiday together, and you were doing trips together, and so that you have a closer relationship. And as in every sector, of course, it's important to have a relationship with people, to know them, and that they know that you are a credible person, that you are a serious person, that you have a certain kind of reputation, because for so many years you have been involved in serious projects and acting in a certain way. So that's clearly for me an incredible advantage, and it's also clearly a responsibility in the sense that I need to be always very careful in whatever I do, in the project that I embark with, because of course, I represent myself, but I also represent the family in which, let's say, I've been raised up and on which I'm very close. So it's clearly a fantastic privilege, because then gives you a natural way to approach art and artists. And you know, for a lot of people at the beginning, the art world may look very scary, almost intimidating or difficult to understand, while since I've grown up in it, to me a lot of things are that maybe are weird, in reality to me seems natural, and vice versa, you know. So I feel that that's a fantastic gift that my family has given to me, and that's why I'm very happy to be involved with the foundation activity, and helping mom, which is the boss, as much as possible when I can. I think in the last 5 to 10 years, the art world has increasingly become bigger and bigger, and so the barriers also to entry are becoming in a way smaller, in the sense that there are much more information, there is much more transparency and accessibility to data, if we talk about the art market, to prices and results. And there are many more opportunities for people to come across shows via art fairs, and mostly also via online platforms like ARTUNER, but like a lot of other online platforms of information, or for net for checking prices and results and so on. So I think that in a way, with pros and cons, but nowadays the art world has become a much bigger phenomenon, where you have hundreds of thousands of people which at different level can be involved. And to me, in any case, this is a great evolution, because it means that there are more people that can work in the art world, since it has become a bigger sector, and there are more artists that can live with their art, hopefully. The art market is a very complicated topic, so maybe we will need just half an hour to start entering into the dynamics. Of course, the institutional support, museum shows, and is an important component. Of course, the collector support, and so private museum supports, in which collection it is, and now many collectors demand for a specific art and specific work is another component that down the line determine the price of an artist. And of course there are certain parameters depending on medium, depending on size, and down the line, if the artist becomes more successful, also auction results have or may have an impact, which I think rightly primary galleries tend to limit, but still they have in this world also an impact, sometimes say secondary market prices and auction results for artists that are more established. In ARTUNER, the negotiation and the pricing is not disclosed online, because we want to keep a relationship between who can be the final buyer and the team of ARTUNER, in order to know where the works go, and check so that the collection is a person really interested in the art and not in potential speculation and so on. So everything happens then, as often happens in this world, via emails or phone calls. And I think, that if you work with artists, primary, you have to have the responsibility of also trying to find their works a nice house, and that they go so to collectors that are really passionate and interested about their work. Let's say I don't know honestly well enough, if not what you can read or hear a bit here and there, to comment. I'm quite bad with social media. Everyone in the team tell me that I should use them more. I find Facebook, Instagram very powerful and useful tool potentially, but they take away a lot of your time. So as much as possible, I prefer to have conversations, human contacts, or visiting artists and talking with them or mostly, let's say, visiting maybe website where there is on top of the image also a description. I think we are living in a society very much image driven, and I believe instead in the importance also of the contents, of the text, and of things that are around the images themselves. So it's very important and very powerful, the picture themselves, but I think we should not forget also the rest, and behind an artwork there isn't just the aesthetic, but there is all the messages, the background, the contextualization that I think it's important to understand well the piece and overall the body of work of the artist. I don't think it's a utopia. I think a lot of people are very interested in engaging more than in a very superficial level, and especially, if you want to put together a serious collection, you need to dig deeper than just trusting an Instagram account. So you need to rely in sometimes people, that put together and advise you, and that's, what I try to do with ARTUNER, to be a bit of a filter and presenting artists that I believe are interesting. But I think that just putting the picture is not enough. It's not enough for the collectors, and it's not enough for the artists. They need to have context. And I think a lot of primary galleries do a fantastic job in creating around the artist the context, the shows, and so it's very important still nowadays the role of the galleries. And I think even auction houses have put a lot of efforts in the last years in creating catalogs comprehensive and very, let's say, sometimes also very big and heavy, in order to present as much as possible the artist's practice. Then how much people are going to read the text or just looking at the picture and then throw the catalogs, this I don't know. But I think, there is definitely an interest in also in the contents and not just in the fast consumptions of images. In a way, ARTUNER is the vision of how I imagine art online should be presented and displayed. And of course, social media are important, we use it and so on, but are complementary and are not enough just to work on social media. And I think, the decision to collaborate with different players in the art world in order to develop pop-ups physically in the world is also, in this direction of trying to use the different opportunities and tools in order to promote the artist and the art I believe in.